Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dave Banks?
Here.
J.J. Stankiewicz?
Here.
Karen Martin? Here.
And do you have minutes from our last meeting?
We had them, but I didn't distribute them because I had a couple of things that needed to be re-entered and didn't get done till noon. So I would hold them till the next meeting.
Okay. The next order of business then, let's start off with the e-poll book early voting ordinance order, proposed order.
I have prepared a proposed order for your consideration today. As you recall, last year we adopted in order in each election board besides to implement the use of e-poll books, it's required to adopt a written order authorizing their use. So last year, because it was a municipal election year, we authorized their use in early voting locations as well as polling places. This year, because the election board has opted just to use them at early voting locations, we need to adopt a new ordinance clarifying that. So I have made this order clear that it only applies for 2016 because it's anticipated that next year, maybe even yet this year, we need to begin discussions about the technology and the equipment we have. So it is very likely, and I would imagine almost a guarantee, that you will need to adopt a new order next year as it relates to the use of the e-poll books. The one thing that I will call out is the order that was adopted last year is still in place. So because of the fact that we're no longer going to use e-poll books in polling locations, we need to adopt this new order to clarify that. So something needs to be done.
Yeah, because I don't think this one had a term on it. Any questions? I know you had issues.
If I may, Mr. President, with all due respect, Ethan Lowe's been very quick and good in performing his legal functions, and when I received a copy of order number 216-1, I wrote back reasons why I thought the order went beyond the resolution that we had passed, which was simply to use a very limited number of e-poll books from a vendor named ES&S at early voting only. And my recollection is that that was the limit of the resolution to be passed. My fear on this order is behind the scenes, I think we all know, there's $180,000 in play. If I was ES&S and I saw a copy of this order, I would use it to my advantage to try to conclude what negotiations are going on now to the favor of ES&S and against us. And I checked with the auditor yesterday. I checked as best I could with the council, and I don't think it is a given that we will all not wind up in court over the purchase of electronic poll books so far. So I would just go along with the resolution.
Because this is strictly for early voting only. We're not using these for the primary or general.
Yeah, what I'm fearful of, Mr. Baines, is the broad language findings of fact, which I understand under the administrative code. I understand where Mr. Lowe's going, and I appreciate all of his work, and it does look like the 2015-1 order. Thank you for sending it to me. I would just indicate I would rather just limit the language to the resolution to be repeated verbatim, that per the e-poll books we have now in our possession, we will use them only for early voting and not cast any further to-dos about the e-poll books that we have now.
I guess I had one question. Where did you come up with the amount of $180,000 due?
Putting together what I understood were invoices that have not yet been put together.
There's only 3 payments of $49,000 each. And we have 32, 145, 55 unencumbered. So the balance due, really in all actuality, if we transfer 66,500 plus, I think is approximately 115,000, 120,000. So I guess I'm concerned where the other 65,000 is coming from.
My understanding, and not to cause problems with the negotiations, is those are figures that are being negotiated between ES&S and the city council.
County council?
County council. Majority county council. And there's other additions to those negotiations in which, if I understand it correctly from what I hear, and I may be not getting all the information, it will allow us to start afresh with our obligations owed to ES&S.
But this isn't, we're not talking about the payment. This is strictly using for early voting. Because I have also heard, I've got mixed bits and pieces, and I don't really want to discuss that.
Correct.
Because, like I said, I have not received any confirmation from county council or attorney or anyone that...
And they should be really working with us, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I know they wanted transparency with them. I think I should be able to reciprocate, and they should do the same with us. As far as I know, we are on the agenda for Tuesday. No one's notified me for what purpose yet. So I'm waiting to find out if there is a negotiation, has there been a settlement, a resolution? I don't know. So at this point, I know this resolution is just strictly for use for early voting only.
I make a motion to adopt the Order 2016-1 as submitted.
I'll second. All in favor of approval of order number 2016-1, authorizing the use of e-poll books for early voting in 2016 only?
Aye.
Aye.
Nay?
And those against?
One.
Okay. So we'll pass on a majority. Is there any other business? That was the only business I had for today. I know you had another item.
Well, I wanted to submit to you the reports with reference to the items that have been worked on. The information on the equipment that we have has been updated. And then we also have information with reference to the committeemen, the delegates for the state, that was all emailed to you. Also, we have been keeping track of every individual that is registering, that the information comes through the clerk's office to forward to the voters' registration. I've requested that they confirm that they've received it, and this has been also taken into consideration, and their work has been done on this end. We also have in there the late reports.
Very good. Yep.
The late reports, I went through them again last night to confirm what was going on with them. We have a couple that are concerns, about 17 out there that are not current. There are some of them that in all actuality can disband because they have the zeros, they just have not taken that opportunity to do that. I did not bring that information, but there are some out there that I thought that I wasn't quite sure if the attorney had created the letter or not, or the status on that, to contact these people.
I have a letter that we have used in the past for those committees that could be disbanded by the election board. I mean, if this board wants to go forward and do that, go through that process again this year,
Right.
if you want to authorize me to do that, give me the list, I will gladly send out the letter to those committees and begin that process.
What about the individuals that are substantially late in their reports? Did you create a letter on that, in that respect?
I don't know that I created a letter in that respect. There was a letter that was sent out last year to all of the committees advising them of the fact that there was going to be a new process put into place. it certainly would have gone to those committees as well.
Because we're up against some deadlines here with reference to notification to them, and whether we need to have them come before for a hearing, and if we're going to implement fines. So I guess I would request that the board entertain some type of motion or some type of direction for those individuals.
I would move that our counsel, Ethan Lowe, be authorized, using his legal discretion, to send out the letters requested based upon the list that you've just given us that we will give to him.
Telling them that they're late, that they need to file their according to the proper documentation.
And I think what I'll do is I'll give you the list of that can be disbanded so they can come in, because if we don't, it doesn't fall in that time lot where we can disband them, then they can come in themselves to disband those, and then they won't be outstanding.
They're just going to disband once they get...
So,
And in sending out those, just to, there's a motion on the table, to clarify that those reports that are delinquent at this point need to be filed by your next meeting date. What date do you want that?
It's the 23rd, and once they're filed to April, that's the next final report before the primary.
well, if people are only having to do the annual, they don't have to do one. That's only for the candidates for this year. So I would suggest that we at least have it by the beginning of March, so that we can review them and make sure they're in place, so that by our next meeting on March 18th, we're allowed to ask any questions or notify them on the next level.
March 1st?
Yeah, it's just 2 weeks.
Second, my own motion.
That's one way to get it done.
To be clear, we're going to send out, council will send out a letter notifying the 17 that are on this list to update and file any proper documentation that's currently delinquent, and they will have up until March 1st to accomplish that task. Otherwise, we will take the next step in the process and have them, required to have them appear at our next hearing, March 18th.
Yeah.
All in favor of approving?
Aye.
Aye. Passed. Okay.
And just so we're okay, council doesn't have to check with us. I mean, we know what he's going to do, right?
Yeah, I believe so. I think,
Okay, good.
yeah, just send us a copy that it's going out.
Sure.
Okay. Anything else? Any other business?
I do have one concern while we're talking about this poll book situation, and looking at probably with other contractors or vendors, because our contract is up at the end of this year. I would suggest that this board not approve any new purchases, because at this point in time, we're at a position, and I'm not talking about our day-to-day, like seals and ballots and things of that sort, but I would like that this motion stand behind the decision not to purchase any additional equipment until we get to a point of negotiations with the contracts.
Or even go a step further, until we solicit for entirely new equipment, new service contract in the spring, or, well, not in spring, starting in December after the presidential elections.
Yes, and I can vote for that, and I would also request humbly that we bid this out to comply with the
Absolutely, that's what
statute.
we'll have to do solicitation in December to solicit bids, but until then, I don't think we need to buy any equipment at this point.
Correct.
We've already made the decision to use the paper ballots this year, so to me, there's no need to purchase any more equipment or rent it or anything else, or obligate us in any more, in leases at this point. It'll make the
Second item,
council happy.
first motion.
Well, I would like to add to that motion stating that the attorney contact all parties involved that work with the equipment, as well as ES&S, and notify them that no future equipment will be purchased as of this point in time until we bid out the process.
I mean, routine maintenance and things like that, like you said, and...
Ballots and
supplies
seals.
through the year, we're not talking about that. That's not applicable. We're just talking about new equipment of any kind.
Okay.
Okay, so you want to renew your motion, we can... How do you want to put it?
I move that we not commit to any further purchase of capital equipment for the Board of Elections at this time without revisiting that issue in the future.
Second.
All in favor of approving the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
I have one thing
Okay.
regarding the matter I mentioned before concerning ES&S. Are we still paying $3,000 a month to Verizon?
No,
No.
that's been terminated, Sunday. And
Well, they're in the process of terminating. The problem is when I went ahead and asked for those lines to be suspended, there were still 3 to 4 pieces of equipment that Sunday had not notified me of that were being charged $29. I've contacted Diana Devine as well as the department to find out what we can do to get that either money reimbursed because they should have been suspended but weren't. So no, there was one bill of $120.02 or 4 cents or something. There's been 2 of those bills, but I'm trying to get refund on those that were not suspended, plus find out exactly what we can do to get out of the contract.
So we should be done.
And the only last thing I would ask if I could just have, if I could make a statement, I think that we should consider down the road when we bid out the equipment, the eligible list of bidders as to how any current contractors have operated with us in the past as to whether they would be an eligible bidder in the future. And depending upon how current negotiations work out, perhaps prior contractors would stay in the bidding pool, and depending upon how it works out to our, not our benefit, that they may be eliminated from the bidding pool based on their prior conduct.
I would want to caution this board on that due to the fact that there are needs that our county may have that only certain vendors can give us, such as Central County. There are no other vendors there. We also need to look at the costs, and these need to be through the negotiation process of the software that's in place. And as you know yourself, you guys discussed this before when Clay was your attorney, about the availability or fees that we would have to pay or not even being able to use that. And when we're looking at this, we probably need to go the whole bid of what it's going to cost, including software, so that we really have a good look at it instead of just equipment, because we already have some software in play. And that's like saying, okay, I've been using Android phones and I've spent $10,000, but now I'm going to go to Apple. Totally different scenario. So we need to really look at those situations so we have a good handle on this.
I totally agree with you. The current e-books are obsolete. They're not being made anymore.
Right, they've
Well, we got, when we purchased those, we were given a free update, free, brand new, current certified one. But since this fiasco has taken place, it's sort of on hold, because that was one of the negotiating things, that they were in the process of having a new certified poll book, and we were going to get the latest greatest, but...
I went to Lake County, and they're using almost like an iPad now, instead of the bulky...
Right, and I think when we solicit the bid, it's going to come down to eligibility. Number one, what's the machine we want to use?
Right.
So that's going to determine who's even going to respond to us. We have software concerns, but I think as we found out, instead of having 7 different contracts at different terms, this is going to be the whole ball of wax contract.
Yeah.
That's my,
Well, we don't want
we want to try to do.
different vendors for different areas,
Right,
because
you gotta
then
be able to
they're going to
put
say,
together.
okay, well, that's not my area. But you know how they think, how finger pointing.
So I think you're right. We will be looking at, both of you will be looking at eligibility as well as what we want, and that'll determine, I think, a lot of who we actually solicit, because they have to be certified too.
With that,
That's
Mr.
safe.
Chairperson, I move we adjourn.
Okay. Do you have a
Well, sort of like maybe.
JJ, if I could just add one thing to the last time, I mean, it would be the lowest responsible bidder.
Exactly.
So,
Be under state law.
responsible, I mean, you certainly would be able to take into account past issues that you may have had with the vendor.
It'd be like taking a look at the 96A form, financial statement, and what they fill out, and whether they've got affirmative action statements, and, yeah, there's a lot of things that we would be looking at
Absolutely.
for responsibility.
Okay, I just wanted to bring this to the board's attention that March 19th is the deadline for the county election board to mail primary election absentee ballots to voters who have previously filed the application with the circuit court clerk. And I would like to know how we're going to address that.
Because it falls on a Saturday?
No, because they have to be filed with the circuit court clerk and not just whomever.
And what's happening?
They aren't filed with me now.
Well, what's the reason?
Maybe it's because other individuals are doing the job.
And does that present a problem in terms of how to get the form to and from?
After you can send it?
This is the problem I have, is we're expecting the individuals out there to go by the guidelines and do the reports by the deadlines, and we're not even following the law as the election board. So, when duties are my responsibilities, I want to do my duties. I do not want someone else taking over, doing my duties, and then assuming things are done, or not assuming things are done. So I think this needs to be maybe reviewed by our attorney to find out what the precise process should be. Because when things are to be filed with circuit court clerk, I want them filed with me.
Madam Clerk, why do you have a problem that your predecessors did not?
Maybe my predecessors did, and if you look at the minutes, yes, there were issues. In fact, during the minutes of 2009, 2010, Patrick Lip, yourself, and Pam Fish had requested that an election board employee be put in the election board to handle these situations because it did not comply with the state code. And the only time that you are allowed to give the duties of the election board to an individual is if you have an employee and you have a resolution approved unanimously by all members. So in my opinion, we have a couple issues here that we need to resolve, and I would like the attorney to review that. And there have been. So, I can get the minutes for you if you're interested, because I read through them, but...
If something isn't broke, why do you want to fix it?
Because it is broke.
Well, let's review the process and see if there's an issue. If you could check into that as our counsel, then we could...
And just so I'm clear, then that's where finance reports should be filed?
No, we've already handled that.
No, the absentee...
The absentee ballots.
So the mission, that the process is correct, I guess, we'll take it from that standpoint.
As long as we're going that route, we have voters registration employees doing election board work historically for the last 25 years.
And they've gotten a substantial raise for that.
That is not an answer. If you want things to be done legally correct, do it. But don't pick and choose things that favor you and no one else.
I'm not picking and choosing. I should know myself, Jamie.
You know that the voters registration have the only employees, and the election board doesn't have one employee. So how do you think things get done on election day? Do you go out and do it? No. Does Dave? No. Do I? No. So how do you...
Are you saying I can't do it? Do you say I'm not qualified? Is that what you're
You
saying?
will never do 124 precincts and all the work that 6 people are doing, and you know it.
Okay.
We'll review the process, let's leave it at that.
Well, as long as you're going to review that process, have the attorney review the process of what are the duties of the voters registration board, and you will find they have no duties whatsoever with the election board.
I don't think that's a question. I think that's already been stated. That's the problem.
Well, fix it, madam.
Okay, then I guess we should. And that's what our attorney is going to review.
So we're going to renew the motion to adjourn, how's that?
Thank you.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I think I made it.
I know. Now you're going to second it, I just now proposed it again.
Sorry.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Good, we are adjourned, we'll see you all in March.